We'll start the show in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, CasaGo, and co-sponsors Guest Ranger and Good Neighbor Tech.
CasaGo's founder, Steve Schwab, has been quoted as saying, "You can only be a local in one place." This simple yet profound statement is the basis of CasaGo's franchise model, which allows locally owned vacation rental management companies the ability to compete at a national level by leveraging the systems, software, and support and buying power of a much larger organization.
As a CasaGo franchisee, you have the freedom to run your business with the support of a community of like-minded professionals while leveraging the economies of scale and buying power to increase profitability and reduce operating costs.
Guest Ranger is the premier guest screening and chargeback protection solution. Leveraging AI, their tool effectively detects fraudulent activity, fake IDs, and underage guests, while also performing comprehensive dynamic background checks. With Guest Ranger, businesses can rest assured that their customers are safe and secure.
Good Neighbor Tech allows you to manage your properties remotely and intelligently, protecting your owners and your guests. Their smart Wi-Fi locks allow you to provide temporary access to home and garage from anywhere and keep track of when guests and service providers are in the property. Good Neighbor Tech provides the ability for you to collect email addresses from all guests staying in a property, not just the one who booked the reservation. Every guest who connects to the internet will see your branded welcome page and be prompted to provide their email address in order to connect to the Wi-Fi.
Visit casago.com/franchise, guestranger.com, and goodneighbortech.com for more information.
Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today with Christina Thoreson, who is a vacation rental legend and an aspiring sommelier. Did I say that right?
I think that's good.
We love wine, so you're keeping the right place to train.
You're with the right crowd.
Yep. Y'all will help me taste, right? So I can develop my palate.
Well, our favorite thing is talking about vacation rentals while drinking wine. And unfortunately, we don't have any today, but maybe
we should have planned this better.
Next time.
Yeah. Well, we're so excited to have you. And Christina, you just have such an amazing story that you've built in many years within the industry and in other industries. And most recently, some pretty maybe dramatic is the word, I'm not sure, but just very interesting things that have happened within your role in the business. So before we get started, can you give our audience a little bit of history of who you are and your background within vacation rentals?
Sure. So in about 2004, Thor, my now husband, built a house that was on the bluff of Lookout Mountain, and the interest rate started rising, and he was on an adjustable rate mortgage based on LIBOR, which is the London Interbank Loan Rate, and thought, I'm not going to be able to afford this. I need to make this something else. I need to make this a vacation rental. And so checked around, found somebody in Chattanooga that would help him with that. And so 2004, turned that property into vacation rental and moved in something we call the shed. And during the time from 4 to about 13, when the guests would have a problem, the person managing the property would have them call his cell. And so in 13, we found out that person was neither licensed by the state of Tennessee, which they're required to be, nor had an escrow account. Ooh. And so I said to him one night on the porch, drinking wine perhaps, hey, I think you should just take him away from this person and we should start managing them. And so in January of 2014, we went up to Sevierville and took a vacation lodging license class, and he became licensed and started managing his own too. And then people started coming because they knew him from the hang gliding community, started coming to him and saying, hey, you're managing yours. Would you do ours? So that's kind of how we got started in the industry in about February of 2014 as professional managers.
That's right around Valentine's Day too, right?
Yeah. It actually was. I think it was a few days before Valentine's that he became licensed. Yeah. And of course, I went to the class with him, but I didn't become licensed because I had all those other real estate credentials. I didn't want to try and manage all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you grow? Recently, I mean, we'll go touch on it. Recently you sold it, but back then, how did you grow your business? Because I mean, that was at a time when vacation rentals was growing slowly and kind of quietly. I mean, Alex and I've been around for enough time to know that the last few years has been the boom, but it's, things were slow, and you were in I mean, Gatlinburg is a big market, but Chattanooga is not a huge market for vacation rentals, or at least it wasn't at the time.
No, it wasn't. So I think we were one of the first properties in Chattanooga in like 100-mile radius to be on Flipkey back in the day.
Oh,
yeah.
So we were paying for advertising. Thank you, Jeremy. And why'd you say that? Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
All the things.
I used to love
I've had this conversation.
Yeah.
We were on Flipkey and then paid to be on HomeAway. And then, of course, I think VRBO bought Flipkey and then HomeAway bought VRBO. You know, that whole thing happened.
Yeah.
When we decided we were managing, it was really not intentional to open a company, although we opened a company because he is a former military policeman. He's a rule guy. We want to make sure we're following all the rules. And then people started coming and saying, hey, would you manage this for us? We just organically had owners recommend other owners. People found out he was doing it. He was like a 14-year-old girl on Facebook posting what he was doing every day. And,
and he still does that.
That's right. Which is awesome. I love it. But he would be like at my office and have this gorgeous view or off the river. And then we had a good friend who was real interested in us helping a local land trust called the Tennessee River Gorge Trust with their property. They had a property on the river that they were using for events and brides, and they didn't like it. They were spending a lot of time and a lot of money. They weren't making any money. And they came to us and said, hey, would you help us manage this? And that became like our fourth property. So we just grew from word of mouth until we decided, oh, now we have payroll. We should probably do something intentional. Because we really didn't plan any of that.
I think that's how so many of us have gotten into the business, and even the business owners, that they didn't realize that they were actually building a business until all of a sudden it was like, okay, wow, I need software and I need people to be able to manage this empire that is like quickly growing in front of my eyes. And it's interesting to see that happen in so many different areas of the country, that it's just a similar path for many of us. But
unintentional. It wasn't like in fifth grade I said, "Oh, I want to be a vacation rental manager."
Right? Yeah. Most people never.
Unless you're born into the business, it's not like you aspire to. Like, I'm going to go to college and learn all about vacation rentals.
Yeah.
There probably should be a class for it, though.
Just to give a little bit of foreshadowing, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, but you recently sold your business, about a year and a half ago. Is that
actually we closed June 30 of 22. So 7 months.
Okay. So you had been in the business for roughly 6 years or so before you decided to sell. Tell us about those early days. I mean, Flipkey, I certainly remember that. And I remember things were so much easier back then. People just sent in an inquiry and you wrote back, and sometimes you hear from them, sometimes you didn't. But it definitely put a lot more control in the hands of the operator, I think, to respond how they wanted to and control that guest experience. But talk about the early days and maybe just some of the struggles that you guys experienced between those years of, the 2015, 2018, 2020 in that time.
Sure. So 2014 is when we technically opened. By 2015, we had 4 properties, and by the end of 2015, early 2016, we had like 7 or 8. Some of the early struggles were not knowing a thing about vacation rental housekeeping. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Every surface, every time. What are we talking about here? Just change the sheets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we didn't know. And so we had some residential cleaners that were working for us on contract basis. And then early 2016, we had a meeting with an attorney. We thought, okay, now we have a fairly substantial amount of income coming in, and we've got a couple of employees. We need to make everybody an employee because we're telling the housekeepers when and where. Yeah. So figuring out the legal aspects and the operational aspects, how does the trash get taken off? Most of the houses didn't have internet. I mean, there was it was a rural market, right? Mm-hmm. We were out on Lookout Mountain. We were out on the river west of Chattanooga, down in the valley, in Lookout Valley on the west side of the mountain. Trying to find the right people for the right seats. We didn't even know that was a thing. We just were like, hey, can you come help us?
Yeah, please. Nice.
Yeah. Just begging.
Yes, just begging. And then trying to professionalize it as we learned more and more about it. We were early adopters to Escapia. So in 2016, we had 8 or 9 properties, and we were getting, or maybe 10 properties. We had a little thing called Res Key that was basically just calendar ops, right? Mm-hmm. And pushed back to our Verbo and Flip Key, I think, or Homeway and Flip Key. I can't remember exactly. And so I had met somebody and I was like, oh, we really need to be on Escapia. We'd been doing the accounting on a legal pad.
We'll be back in just a minute after word from our premier brand sponsor, Costco.
I've done every position in this company. I mean, I started from the ground up. I was done right. I just did everything. So I've done it all. Not to say that I don't still enjoy vacuuming. I love that. You get burned out a little bit and you lose your, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
That's Kelly Hill, Costco's franchisee from McCall, Idaho. Her company, Done Right Management, had been a leader in the market for many years, but as larger national companies started to gain ground, Kelly felt like she was losing control of the business.
I was my way out the door before Costco came. I really was. I think I was considering selling the company because I was at that point where I was getting like, maybe this isn't for me. Ryan and Steve approached me, and it was like they sang a song to me because I was like, this is what I need. I need direction. I'm looking at the bigger companies and I'll say, Vicasa's out there and I admire them for a lot that they do. They have a lot of bandwidth here. They have, bulk. And so they can do things a lot cheaper and their systems are great. And I looked at Costco as the opportunity that we needed to get there, to have some of those advantages.
We asked Kelly about the transition to becoming part of Costco and her thoughts on the benefits of becoming part of their franchise model.
We had just switched to a different PMS system that same year. So it was a real challenging year, but it was so worth it because Streamline is just, it's the best of breed. And I love touting that. When I meet with owners, I'm like, we use Streamline software. It's the best in the industry. That's the one main thing, is that the training and the support that they've given us. They are just there. Anything we need.
Kelly's story is one that resonates with many of our franchisees. Switching software is a big decision. Costco's full-time support staff are here to help make this process significantly easier and more efficient than a regular software switch.
Ryan and Steve, they just really said, you can still do this. We're here for you. And if we have all these things in place, your company can run smoothly, and it does. And I think that I can take off for a week, and I know I'm going to come back and everything is running as good, if not better, than when I was here. So it's great.
Visit Costco.com/franchise to hear more stories from franchisees like Kelly and inquire about territory opportunities and available markets.
Every month, and that was complicated. And so they said, well, we take 90 days to onboard. And I said, well, we're leaving for Europe in 2 weeks. So either we onboard or we can't do this. Because we were leaving somebody else in charge. So we did it. Of course, we had a lot of properties, right? So, software and technology, people, operations, all those things were a challenge to sort of figure out, now we need a pickup truck just for trash. Because there was no trash removal rurally.
Especially where you were. You were having to cover a wide geographic area. The Smokies and Chattanooga, that whole area. That's, if you're managing in different parts there, you're having to send crews in very large distances, but operationally that's tough.
He called it windshield time.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of later years in 21 and 22 when we were putting 30 or 40,000 miles a year on 4 different vehicles.
Wow.
And that's just that's trash and maintenance, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Not because our furthest property was probably 65 miles.
Wow.
So we were, between properties, it's not very reasonable distance.
Yes. Yeah.
So in that, having a property that far away from your office, you obviously assume that you were an early adopter of some of the tech to be able to check people in. I think that has really come into its own in the last couple of years, but that was kind of at the beginning of the don't touch your guest phase, when that was really happening. So how did you decide that was a way you could operate, or was it just by necessity?
So when we started the company, we decided we did not want to have keys. We wanted electronic locks. We wanted to be able to do those remotely. So we used a company called eRental Lock, which basically was a logarithmic card. And you put in the data time of start of the reservation and the data time of finish. So you didn't manually make every code for every reservation. And we popped that into the emails to the guest. we figured if, like, we as guests, we don't need to meet you. We don't need to come get your key and talk to you in your office. And because we didn't have a real estate arm, we didn't have a brokerage. So we weren't trying to bring the opportunity for those guests to sell, right? We weren't trying to sell them property. So we didn't need to meet them in person. If they were happy, they go to the property, love the space, have a great time, and check back out. And we didn't hear from them because they didn't need anything. It was great. Great for them, great for us. Because that's how we like to travel. When we started, Thor will tell you, I was a huge advocate because I had guest perspective of one price per night, like one rate, cleaning, taxes, everything included, no additional fees. Now that the conversations become so huge.
Right.
And he was, after about, I don't know, maybe 18 months, he said, I think we should charge sales tax. We're leaving all this money on the table. Because when we started, they were like, we were one of the first people on the internets, but then when we went back, like in 16, there were like 17 properties or something ridiculous, like really small number for Chattanooga. And he said, everybody else is charging these things, cleaning and sales tax. We should probably we're just leaving that on the table because our nightly rate I was doing a nightly rate study manually once a quarter because I'm a weird appraisal geek, right? So talk about like scrape data. I was literally looking at every listing and seeing how they were listed on the different sites. And
that's so funny. I mean, that's been my experience as well. Just literally looking on other websites. I mean, back in those days, that's what you did. 'Cause I mean, there were no tools. There were no dynamic pricing tools in the 2014 to 18 or so. I'm not sure when they started, probably around 18 or 19, I'd say. But it was looking at websites, and it was very time consuming because some sites made it easier to tell from the onset versus some you have to go all the way to the checkout page. And then, everybody does things a little bit differently. And I think that there's greatness in that, but there's also, this is not comparing a Hilton to a Marriott on Expedia. It makes it very difficult for people like you, who actually you were essentially the revenue manager without even knowing that was probably a title at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll date myself and say that I remember we would have meetings on Monday and take the reservation team offline, and they would call around. Like we had, that's what they would do. They would call around and then come back with their report. Like the reservation manager would come back in and tell us what all the competitors, handwritten notes. It's like, it's just so amazing where we've come.
Oh, it is. The tools we have now are remarkable. Remarkable.
Yeah.
Now, towards the end of the 2010s, I guess you decided to change software, right? You changed over to Track.
And the fourth time.
fourth software
changed. Yeah, we had changed.
Wow, that's a lot.
Then we went from ResKey to Escapia to LiveRes to Track.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know LiveRes was in the middle of it too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of changes over the years. Yeah. So you changed the Track. And then I know one of the things that was so interesting to me when we first met was you were actually, I think, the first one to tell us about EOS and how you integrated that in the business. And it seems like that's just something that's become very common in our industry and probably in other industries too. But it's just recently that's become utilized in vacation rentals. But did you tell us about that? Was that part of Track, or did you do that after Track, or how did that work?
That's a great question. So in March of 2020, when everything was starting to fall down in pandemic world, people were getting sick and dying. Mm-hmm. Thor did one of his famous long hikes, and he called me and he said, I think we just shut it down. This is before the government shut down anything anywhere. And he said, but I'm worried about our team getting sick, guests coming that are sick or getting sick while they're here. Yeah. And then the repercussions potentially for owners and for our community. So if a guest gets our community sick or comes sick and then dies in a property, what does that look like for our team, for the owners? There's so much risk. He said, Christina, and a lot of our team, several of our team members, longtime friends and family, 2 of my daughters worked with us. Mm-hmm. And he said, I don't want to put anybody's life at risk. I think we just shut it down till we understand. Mm-hmm. And so we shut it down. We created a nonprofit, and we decided we would put all of our personal savings in this nonprofit and pay our team whatever the gap was. Like they hadn't decided about they hadn't shut anything down. They hadn't decided about federal benefits or something for unemployment. We just figured we would pay whatever their average monthly wage was, like over the last 12 months, whatever the gap between unemployment and that wages, we would just pay them that out of that foundation, because we didn't know how long this was going to last. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody knew. So we thought, okay, we're going to shut it down because it's not safe. And then we shut the company down and we're done?
Yeah.
Or do we invest everything we have in moving it forward in a different way? We have a unique opportunity. We don't know how much time we have, a couple of months at least, to completely reformat the business. So we decided B. And I talked to Steve Trevor, who I had several conversations with.
Yeah.
He recommended the book Traction. He recommended that I call Sharon Keefe and look at EOS. I read the book in 2 days and I was like, oh, this is definitely what we need to do. We kept on our two of our team members, Jen Richards, who's now actually at Track, and Katie Bien, who's with Ventori, who's also one of our vendors. And we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We got to everybody read the book. We're going to do this. And then we called Track and John Stokinger was still there. And I said, John, we're not quite at 50, but we really want to be Track. We had wanted to be on Track since maybe 2016. And they were so cute. We were at a conference and we said, oh, we would like to be in your system. And they were like, oh, great. Here's my card. And, oh, by the way, how many properties do you have? And we were like 6, I think. We bring it on 7. They were like, oh, how cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't be on Track with that number.
Right.
You can't afford it.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway. So we decided to double down, and Track made us a great deal. Nobody knew what was going to happen. We said, we'll pay you a year in advance. We'll pay you for 50. And before we quit the business, we had more than 50 properties. So
yeah, isn't that great?
We just doubled down basically and tried to reformat everything. So,
well, and having the right software, tools, systems. I mean, that's like, you guys were really building to what you probably always need all those through those years. But here's the thing too, you don't know when you start what you don't know. And I've talked to so many people in my role now in Casago that are interested in becoming a franchisee. And they say, I could do this on my own, but I know I'm going to end up taking missteps, or I'm going to go down a path and I'm not going to know something. And that's going to cost me way more money than it would to start with somebody that knows it. And I think for anybody getting into the industry, whether it's through mentorship or through different programs or aligning with a software that's going to help guide you, that's really important. And I mean, you guys had to take a few years there to get to that point, but you got there. And now let's segue into the really interesting part of the story. But tell us what happened next.
Well, we doubled down. We reopened, 3 days between, 1 day between, 0 days. Everybody's good. We had all the cleaning stuff already in place, but we found out about dwell times. I never thought I'd need to know about dwell times of chemicals to kill germs, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Literally, I spent 3 or 4 days researching dwell times of chemicals. So, and Thor and I were talking about this, over breakfast. We came back, rock and roll. Everybody knows we got super busy. We had people calling us while we were closed saying, please let us come. We've been long-time guests. We always come. Please let us come. We need to get away. We couldn't. We just couldn't open it. Anyway, when we finally opened, got real busy. We had all the processes in place and we're working on some of the bigger ideas and just got super busy. Well, it kind of exploded. And in mid-21, I got an email from Jacoby Olin, and he said, hey, if you're thinking about selling your business, and I was like, please get me out. And so I said, walk me through what that looks like. And so he did. And Thor and I talked about it. And we decided, no, we're just going to do this. We're just going to keep doing this. We have everything in place. We have a great team. We just need to rock and roll, keep going.
Yeah.
And in early 22, he called us with an offer. And less than 24 hours later, we got a second offer from a completely unrelated source. And then I went to Chicago to conference and I talked to 2 more people who wanted to sign NDAs and make us offers on our business.
Wow.
So in a 3-week, first in a 24-hour period, and then in about a 3-week period, we had 4 interested parties. And I said, Thor, what? We weren't going to sell. What do we do? And he said, I think it's a sign. To get 2 offers in this period of time, this just doesn't happen. We just need to move forward. We probably spent 6 weeks negotiating that. Well, the first offer we spent about 2 or 3 weeks on and just couldn't figure out a way to do it. that second offer, we spent about 6 weeks really hammering out terms, wanting a lot of assurances about how things were going to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real hard decision. It's like having an 8-year-old. So at that point, we were 8 years in the business with the company. And of course, I've been operating vacation rentals since 2004 without knowing that's what we were doing.
Right.
It's like selling your kid.
Yeah.
And Thor doesn't have children. And he jokingly says, I'd sell my kid.
Yeah. I mean, there are days when I would have sold mine for the right amount of money. Again.
Right?
Make a deal.
Girls, I think the same way.
Right.
And so it was a real tough decision. Plus, these are all our people, right?
Right.
And these owners, we've known a long time. I mean, they trusted us with usually their largest financial asset.
Sure.
Sometimes their second largest. It was a tough decision. And at the end, we signed the paperwork. We called every single team member in that next 2-hour period and said, okay, this is what we've been doing the last 6 weeks. And this is the direction we're going to see if we can go. Because we had a long contract period. It was like a 45-day contract period. We really weren't sure until day of closing that we were going to agree to do it.
Wow.
And what was that conversation like with your staff? Because again, you talk about the business is your child, but this is your support system, your family members, your aunts, uncles, cousins. Like this is what it all is. Like, how do you go to them and say, like, I know you've worked all this, but we're getting out, to give them that assurance? Because I'm sure that, again, you want to make sure that they're protected, but there's only so far you can go with a sale of giving assurances. And so a lot of it is just really trying to utilize that I guess that comfort that they have with you, the trust that they have in you,
right?
That you're going to do the best by them.
Well, that was hard. It was hard conversations. From our perspective, we just explained our decision-making process and why we thought it would be a good opportunity for them, because it would give them the option of working in a lot of different areas. If they wanted to physically move geographically, if they wanted to move up in a company, like in our company, there's nowhere to go.
Right.
We own the company. There's really no upward progression if you want to grow in your field.
Right.
One of the things that we told everybody was, look, if, one of the things we negotiated, we spent about 3 weeks negotiating, is a clause in the contract that said you have to keep our people for at least 6 months. You absolutely cannot change their pay. You can only increase it. And you have to give them these benefits you're promising them. If you don't do that, we have a contract, we'll sue you. I mean, Thor was, he can be kind of direct. There were several times I thought they were just going to throw up their hands and say, never mind.
Right.
But they didn't. They really wanted this location. So we just told people, look, this is the reason. We think it'll give you more opportunity. You have options to move in other places. You can move out of your current role into a different kind of role in the vacation rental industry.
Yeah.
We're all learning in this business, and we want you to have as many options as possible. You've built some traction in yourself and fundamental skills and knowledge and expertise. And so you can take that anywhere. This industry is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we said. And of course, at closing, we did a big bonus for the people who were still at the company. And one of the people that had left, because without them, we wouldn't have gotten to where we were.
Yeah. Right. And I think, I remember being in Chicago with you and talking, you didn't talk about selling the business at that point, but talking about what was going on. And it's just, that was like right before, or probably in the middle of when we started hearing of a lot of different acquisitions within the industry. Yeah. Several big legacy players that had sold either to Vacasa or V-Trips or another private equity company. That was almost, we had a first of the month episode, Annie. I think that was maybe June with Simon Lehman. That's what we talked about, was like, what in the world is going on? Everybody's selling their businesses in this mass exodus. But that was also right before real estate also slowed down significantly over the summer and interest rates rose. And so it's interesting now to see, I don't think that anybody really is out there with the same buying appetite that they had at that time. From a numerical and revenue standpoint, I'm sure it was a very good time for you to get out when you did, because that deal, even with the other ones, I don't think would probably exist in its same format now. But, that being said, obviously getting the payout for your work is wonderful, but I'm sure it's also a challenge for you guys to look back on it and know that part of that is gone, or a lot of it is gone, and a lot of it wasn't upheld to how you had wished things would go. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process was?
Sure. So as part of the contract, they were buying the contract assets, our agreements with the owners, and they were also buying all of our brand identity. Mm-hmm. And after closing, we found out they hadn't even forwarded the phone number.
Wow.
And
like on purpose, or just that somebody?
No idea. No idea. The team that integrated us, about 3 months after closing, they were all let go.
Wow.
And the fellow at the organization who was the salesperson who came to us to negotiate the deal is no longer with them.
Yeah.
As of about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's a real weird, like I'm trying to resolve 2022 taxes.
Yeah.
And I'm
you don't know who to go to.
There's nobody to go to.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm emailing them and crickets.
They're like, who are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because we had revenue until June 30 and they started revenue July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I couldn't get any of the marketing websites to give me information. We had downloaded everything from our site. We were on track and we were about 60% direct bookings. So the bulk of the revenue we can handle and deal with. The rest of it, it's like,
yeah,
we're going to rely on our financial records because we don't have, there's no 1099 or anything.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I mean, I remember back a few years ago when in my previous role, we had purchased another company that also had a very large presence and website in our area. And we talked to people about, do we redirect that website? Do we keep the brand? Do we merge it into our brand? And a lot of people that we talked to said, well, you ought to just follow what Vacasa did. And they just, when they buy a company, they just redirect it and you just get the value of that traffic and those links. And we did the opposite. And I think we definitely did it the right way by not doing that. I mean, and really, I think if other big companies would have followed suit, it would have been better in their path also, because I mean, really the local brands are so important. And if anything else, I mean, it's certainly more to manage and more complicated, but when you have more results on a search results page, that's only better for that company to continue to get their own direct business, which you have built up a pretty good direct business in a fairly short amount of time. Yeah. So that's a lot of equity in a company to throw away. And I really think that in a lot of these acquisitions, that the equity in the marketing assets, the websites, the brand it's almost not even it's not part of the equation. You're valuing the company based just on the contracts, but a lot of these websites have a lot of value that even if they're repurposed and used for something different, not vacation rentals, a lot of them have URLs that are not specifically for accommodations that they could be repurposed. But it's interesting to see the different paths.
Agreed. It's tough for us to see after the fact.
Yeah.
We left town right after the close and we're in St. Lucia, that's the island we went to. And my phone was off. So was Thor's, like for 10 or 11 days. And we turned it back on. It was like, bing, 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 bing.
Oh, no, that's the worst.
All the text messages from our team,
right.
Our owners.
Sure.
We did have a couple of owners actually reach out and say, oh my gosh, y'all, I had no idea how much work y'all were doing. We appreciate y'all so much. We are so sorry we were ever hard to deal with.
Yeah. After the fact, it's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have a different perspective.
Yeah.
So in your sale, how long, other people have talked about, there's different clauses, I guess. But how long do you have to, if you wanted to get back into vacation rentals, like how long do you have to not be in the market to be able to do that?
So in Chattanooga, we agreed to a 5-year non-compete.
Wow.
Well, think about how iconic Thor is. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if people heard he was doing it again, they'd be like, oh, Thor. But it's
hopefully they paid you for his stature in the community.
Well, it never pays for that, but
well, sure.
I mean, they did a pretty high price, and from my understanding, it was median for what happened in that first quarter. Yeah, and after that first quarter, nothing else really has sold or been bought.
Yeah, I think you got the tail end of it.
Thor said, I don't know. I think God loves me. It's like she's like it's good timing,
Yeah, right.
But then now he's so upset because he misses it.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could go to other markets and do it.
Okay.
I'm not sure he wants to do operations again.
Yeah.
I would love the opportunity, knowing what I know now. That's like, if you could go back to 25, but know what you knew now.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
Yeah.
There's some real appeal to that.
Yeah.
You know, hearing about Travis and Rebecca talk about the 100 Club, which I love the idea.
Yeah.
We were initially part of that and then weren't. We decided to stop doing it, but because it wasn't done yet. But hearing them talk about it, I would love to be a part of that. Like that kind of stuff that people are doing.
Yeah.
I think we would probably go franchise. I mean, I think we would probably call you.
Right.
Well, I know somebody that I can hook you up with somebody that can
right. Yeah. Somebody knows about franchises around here.
But I think that's probably the route we would go, because why beat your head against a wall? Right.
Yeah. It's, I mean, to start from scratch is even if you've been in the business, there's still so much to begin and start building that tech stack and, all the processes and everything that you need to redocument. But it is interesting. I think being in the position that you guys are in, it's like, I would imagine you kind of have that feeling of like, you almost want to, and I think Thor wants to prove it to himself that he can do it again.
Yes.
It's kind of like you guys, I mean, everything worked out, well, in a certain way for you. Now it's like, okay, but I'm not done. It's like, it's almost like you guys had like the last song cut out for your main concert. Like, and
before you were able to dance,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't, he was doing most of the operational heavy lifting. So like when nobody shows up to clean, or somebody's not picking up the trash, he's going to do it. An issue with a housekeeper being out or something. I've cleaned houses. I'm not good at it, y'all. Don't ever ask me to do that. I'm terrible. I didn't clean my own house. It's just dirty, right? I just don't.
Right.
But he was doing operationally most of the heavy lifting. So when we talk about going back into that, he's like, Matt can race us in the summer.
Right. I wanted to ask you about your staff. And I go back to when I was in vacation rentals. So before 2012, I had been in it since like the late 90s. And so one of the things that being in the business I struggled with, and a lot of people that I knew struggled with, is when you wanted to leave vacation rentals, there was really nowhere to go. The hotel sector looked at you with like, vacation rentals, you don't know anything about hospitality, and then there wasn't all this technology. And so you have a couple of people that have now, one of yours went to Track, and you said Katie is at Vintory. Yes. There's more opportunity out there for people. And I think that there's now so much value put on the expertise and the experience and the breadth of knowledge that people from vacation rentals have, that the hotel side didn't really pay close enough attention to, and probably let the opportunity to get some really great employees pass them by over the years. But what did it look like? Because I'm guessing that some of these people came to you and said, like, the situation is just this no bueno. I don't want to be here. Yeah. Were you able to help them find their purpose and their place and the next chapter for them?
We have in several instances. Some of them I can't really talk about, and some of those people, of course, having been in a smaller company like we had, you wear a lot of hats. So they had a breadth of experience like you're talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of our team has found other roles in other sectors, mostly, let me think, almost wholesale on the vendor side. Because operations is hard, y'all.
Sure.
And so I think, they have been able to pivot and, of course, get paid a whole lot more money than we were paying them, because we were little. We couldn't, they were growing with us, but we couldn't really compensate. Unfortunately, cost of living is not huge in Chattanooga and Metro and Dade County. I think we paid for our staff to do a ton of training. We sent them to conferences. We always wanted them to be sharpening their skills. And one of the ideas behind the nonprofit, which we kept open after the pandemic was over, and people could apply for a grant to do any kind of education, because our goal was not to keep them at our company. Our goal was for them to be the best they could be. Lean into your interest and your curiosity. Right. We'll pay for that. And if that means you leave us, we will hold your hand and wave goodbye and say, stay in touch. We love you. We want you to do the best wherever that is, whether that's with us or not. I just think that's the good way.
Important.
Yeah, that's the way to look at it, because as you're building your team, for anybody building a team right now, if you can't necessarily afford to pay somebody the top dollar that, that they deserve, and they know they deserve, but they want to work for you, there's other ways to compensate them. And that's a part of that is just having that support of, I'm going to do my best that I can to train you and to teach you and give you the skills and the experience you'll get here. But I also know that if it's not forever, then that's okay. You can't expect people to stay with you forever if you also know you're not able to give them what, they're going to be able to deserve and rise into. But I think that speaks a lot for you and Thor's character exactly. And also leadership. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, when we implemented EOS in mid 2020, we made some really crazy stretch goals, and we were meeting all of them. And the goal was, we had implemented a simple IRA because we had met some of those goals and we had the money to do it.
Yeah.
Little known secret, probably in a lot of companies, I never, ever got a paycheck from that company, even though I was working 30 or 40 hours a week, never paid me a dime. We didn't start paying Thor until early 21.
Wow.
Never a dime.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we were living our personal life on my appraisal, my valuation practice, and we were putting every dime. We were actually putting money into the company
back in
sometimes
the company.
because we wanted it to grow and we wanted our people to have a great place to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Not sure that's the right strategy. Matter of fact, in New Orleans, at the conference in New Orleans, Simon at Matt Landau's party said to me, "Really? You're not profitable? We didn't talk about this."
Profitability. Yeah.
How many times we've heard that from Simon? And he's right.
It's the oxygen that grows your business.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. We literally have sayings ingrained in our minds now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But you know what? That to me is, I'm a big believer in karma, in the karmic flow of the universe. And that goes to me, speaks to why God likes Thor, and likes you. Like that was why this opportunity came when it did, because you had built up your team to be prepared for anything, whether they really knew it or not, and you set them up for success. And so whether it was easy to do or not, you had done all the right things. And so I think that just is like, I love hearing that. And I love to hear that people invest in their employees, because I've worked at companies where they just couldn't have cared less about anybody that worked for them. It was just really about the bottom line. And it was that nobody cared about making you whole or making you a better human down the road. And so it's great to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think
sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead.
I just always wanted people to follow their passion in terms of what they wanted to do in the industry and or beyond the industry.
Sure.
We paid for one person who worked for us wanted get her pilot's license. We paid for pilot license. We paid for her. She never got a license, but we paid for the lessons for her to go. She found that she had, she's colorblind. So she I know. So she couldn't become an agent.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can't be a pilot if you're color. I mean, I guess that makes sense because the colors on the switch.
The colors on the switch. Yeah.
It's commercial. Wow. So she can be a private pilot but she couldn't do commercial. So.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, I guess if you get $1 million and get a Learjet and want to fly to Germany and Austria and Italy.
Yeah. You're setting yourself up for future benefits with this employee.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's also another good lesson in that too, that businesses that, and not everybody can do this, but I think you and Thor were in a good situation that you had another living, that you didn't have to take money out of the business.
Right.
But there's a trend for sure of businesses that have also been able to do that the owner managers aren't bleeding the company dry and supporting, their heavy salaries. I mean, those are the companies that last in the long haul. I've seen both sides of that in my experience. So that's something that everyone should aspire to. I mean, even if you're starting a side hustle or a vacation rental company on the side, if you've got something else that can keep your, pockets funded for a while, that's going to be better in the long term, because whether you invest it back in your people or in technology to be able to grow the business, but people and technology are the two most expensive line items on anyone's P&L. So you got to have the money to do it.
And rightfully so. Without the people, there's no point.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're a human business. Absolutely. We're a human business.
Yeah.
So what's next for you guys? I mean, I will say that we met you in Chicago and fell in love with you.
No.
Actually, we
met
met her before that.
In
Doing better at Burma in San Antonio.
San Antonio, that's right.
San Antonio,
right.
yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
And with the wine.
Yeah, with wine, of course. No, I mean,
we did have wine. That's right.
We fell in love with you and Thor like instantly, and just, this has been a long time coming. Couldn't get our calendars to sync to get you on the show, but like you are just one of literally my top 5 managers in the business. Just your energy is fun, and so I remember when you told me at DARM that you had done this, and you were like, it's not public, like it's coming out. It's like we told a few people, and I was like, I remember walking away going like, wait a minute, no, that can't, like I just heard her wrong. Look, what are you going to do? I need to see you. Like, I need you at these shows.
Yeah.
So we've been tossing around a lot of things. I had been accepted to an MBA program late this summer.
Oh, congratulations.
I always thought I was going to do MBA PhD because I'd love to do a PhD in data visualization. So in my other world, in real estate valuation, appraisal review, and litigation support, I do some expert witness testimony, and I teach some around the country. I wanted to learn more about that. Like, how do I present information in ways? I mean, I love a spreadsheet, but not everybody loves a spreadsheet, y'all.
True.
So I wanted to figure out a way to better produce that kind of stuff. So I was thinking, MBA, PhD. And I had actually registered for classes, and Thor and I we watched this movie called Uncorked about a young man who wanted to become a sommelier. And at the end of the movie, I'm sitting there crying, and he says, "What's wrong? What's going on?" I was like, I want to be a sommelier. I want to have my retail wine store that I wanted to do 30 years ago. I wanted to have a wine store.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
And he said, MBA, sommelier. They rhyme.
Right?
Sommelier sounds like a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So if you're just tasting, I could drink the rest of the wine. I think that's a great plan.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So I actually called my advisor and I said, can I defer enrollment in the MBA program for a year? And she said, absolutely. We'll take you when you come. We don't.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great.
And so they refunded the money, and I'm going to do some thanks to Matty Pauls and some of his recommendations, Matt at Travel Solutions Track, because he is a somm. I don't know if you know that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he suggested both somm training, which is the Court of Master Sommeliers, and WSET, which is Wine and Spirits Education Trust. So they both have different sort of focus. Sommelier is more like fine dining and how you serve and plates and travel around the table and also wine. And then WSET is more on the retail wholesale side for understanding tasting wine, but also understanding where wines are produced and what goes into the production. Y'all, I had no idea it was this complicated. It's way more complicated than I've ever done. So I just have bought a bunch of books and decided to start with Chardonnay. I don't know. I've been tasting Chardonnay all month.
That's my favorite. Let me know.
Well,
we can do that.
This is your time to follow your passions. And I do hope that Thor finds something back in property management. But if you can find some blend of wine and property management, that would be the sweet spot.
Think about how cool it would be to be able to be, as an operator, automatically share wines with guests and or property owners.
I love that. Yeah. Or
so are you
vacation around a winery, something like that?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Are you gonna open a store? Is that where you still want to go, or you just don't know at this point?
No, it's so early in my learning. I mean, I'm literally just learning like every varietal of grape. Like I didn't even know I like wine. I don't know how they're made, or if they're picked early or late, or if they're grown in warmer or cool climate. And the varieties, there's something like 500,000 different wines.
Wow.
And so it's a lot to learn. It's going to keep me busy for a bit.
Yeah. So I guess we know that whenever we go to a conference and you're there, we just ask you to come to dinner with us.
Right. So we'll defer to your judgment. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of choices at these conferences we go to. It's
true.
White or red, not even the type, but
table wine.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And maybe I get into this and I decide, that's just my brain's exploding. I won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And if not, we'll figure out something. I don't want to leave the hospitality space. Everybody that I've met, I mean, you guys, everybody else has been so wonderful and engaging and encouraging and supportive. Yeah. And I mean, when we had a problem, we would like, hey, who do we call about this problem? People were so willing to be open and share their best practices. And this is how we solved it. That has been remarkable. I was an inventory mastermind for about 4 years. When we finally decided, maybe trying to grow the company, maybe we should market to owners. Like that hadn't occurred to us.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was talking to CJ Sam about it. He said, why don't you call Brooke Fouts? You remember Brooke was at Live Res, and call him. He's got a thing he's doing. So I called Brooke, and what I found out later is we were partner number 10, but they helped us explode the business, like replace.
That's awesome.
And properties that weren't helpful and put better properties in place, and then also grow pretty tremendously. And that's how Katie ended up in that role. Thor and I didn't have time to manage all the leads coming in.
Yeah.
So it was pretty remarkable.
Well, I think you guys, I say this, I've said it for years, but people are born with a hospitality gene or they are not, and you really can't teach it. And the ones that have it are the ones that I feel like they thrive. But I feel like I've had it my whole life and I just didn't know what to do with it. But this industry is like all of those genes, everybody, like the gene pools come together, and like we're all working together. But you're right. I mean, having worked on the hotel side of the business, there's the vacation rentals, there is nothing. And even short-term rentals isn't really the same. Vacation rentals has something about it. It's just got this lure and this passion that I've never seen anywhere else. And I think that we're competitors in different aspects, but we all want to work together to make it better. And that's Alex and I've learned that through all the conversations that we've had is like, you'll talk to people that are very, heated competitors in like the technology space, but they'll go out and golf together and have a drink together and they know each other's kids. And, it's just, we are all one big family regardless. It's a large, vast pool of inventory, but as far as the family and the people that are in it, it's very tight knit and close and small. And I love it. And I just hope that you and Thor stay in it, because you are so valued by everybody that's ever met you, and you're a great asset to the whole community at large.
Yeah. Me cry.
That's my goal. That's going to be my goal this year is how many people can I make cry? It's usually me.
That is very kind. I agree with you. I think the people in this space will compete and then leave that at the table and go be friends and support each other in real and measurable ways. And
absolutely.
Over and over again, seeing that.
Yeah. We're all in something very special. I think that we've learned that more and more as the years go on, but it's not replicatable in other industries as far as I've seen, but it is something special. I mean, to feel like you're part of something bigger than what you are, what your company, and not just what you're, but just what your company is too. There's a lot of value to that. And just, you get a lot. Somebody taught me years and years ago, and I didn't understand this. This was when I was in college, when I was in sorority days, that they said, as a simple, nothing groundbreaking advice, but you get what you give. I mean, what you put in comes back to you. And I remember I didn't really like being in sorority, and I always felt like it was rules and regulations and all these different things. And I didn't like that. But then when I look back on it, I wish I had participated the way that I would have gained more from it if I had embraced why I should have learned, in those days, how to run board meetings. I mean, those are totally things now that I do in my daily life. So, but you get what you put into something, and the more that you engage and lean in, the more it rewards you too. But we're so excited to watch you and Thor's journey, as I know everybody on LinkedIn and within our community is. I think you guys you can probably find somebody to do a reality show about you at this point.
Definitely about Thor.
It's your characters.
I'm not as interesting as he is. I can tell you that. Now I'm a weirdo and I'll lean into things, but he is a whole nother level.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to get to know him more. I mean, he's so quiet when we've talked, but I know he's got so much behind him. And I see his, like you mentioned, the pictures he posts on Facebook. Sometimes they're like a beer at 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, that guy is just funny. Like, you would never expect him to be posting some of these pictures, but I love it.
He's embraced his authenticity, like a whole nother level.
I think he has long not cared what other people thought. Like that's just his ethos. Our company values were like always be kind, do the right thing, be a duck, which is like let it roll off your back when it gets through mad or teammate you're having a struggle, and also paddle like crazy, make it look easy. But I think those were things that were so important to him. The always do the right thing is like his single personal ethos. And not everybody agrees with what he thinks is the right thing. He don't care.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows it in the heart of hearts, whether it's right or wrong. Yeah. Yeah. For him. Yeah. And that's fine. You know, that's a really, it takes some people. I mean, I've just recently come to some of that, and it takes a long time usually to get to that. So good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will continue watching your path, and we will certainly have you back again. And definitely, I think the next time we have you and Thor, or maybe just Thor, and then we have you both back
just
together.
Thor.
Yeah. We want to come and go on a nature walk with him while we record. That's probably the best way to get him in his element.
Totally.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Down on the mountain.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you, Christina, what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. So probably my Gmail, Christina H. Thoreson @gmail.com. And I guess that'll be in show notes. And they're welcome to ping me my real estate valuation practice phone number. It's a Google number, 423-463-0770.
Awesome. Yeah, we will include that in the show notes. And thank you again. If anybody wants to reach Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And if you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear from you. If you could write a review. Christina wrote an amazing one probably about a year ago. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.